You got to make those changes, kind of like Harbaugh did with that defense, Vance. And let's recap, because Mike McDonald comes in as the guy who had, worked on some great defenses with Baltimore, but hadn't called a defense. And he was going to have to call this defense with a new staff. And not just call the defense with a new staff, but with a lot of question marks on that defense, a lot of unproven factors on that defense, Vance. He had to infuse some confidence in them as well. And you've been raving about the job he's done all season long.
When I looked at Mike, he reminds me a little bit of Jim Herman. People go back, Jim Herman's first year truly calling the defense was 97. Because Greg Madison was there 95, 96. And we changed it. We became more aggressive on defense, how we attack people. But I watch how Mike called the game. It reminds me of that 97 defense. It was aggressive, it's pressure, different looks up front, different looks in the secondary. You had a defense up front, you turned them loose. So I was excited when I saw game one. I said they could clean up the mistakes. And the kids going to get better, which I said after game one, which they did. I was overly impressed. And then on offense, they ran the football as something that Lloyd Carr did back then. Protect the defense, play great special teams, great defense. Get to the fourth quarter, let the D take over, look out. And that's what happened this season.
Yeah. See, Marcus, as I hear Vance talk about that, Jim Herman had a lot of proven commodities. I mean, you guys had made a lot of mistakes. You didn't put together great seasons. But Charles Woodson, you were heading into his junior year. You had gotten some music on wax, so to speak. You had some big time players out there that just had to all come together and had to have a good plan. Mike didn't have that. I mean, you had an Aiden Hutchinson, but Aiden hadn't done yet what he did this year. To bring that all together was really impressive, not just from a coaching perspective, but from a player perspective as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I look at our 95 and our 96 teams, I thought those teams were talented. We were young, though. We got a lot of redshirt freshmen. I mean, Vance trusted me enough to start as a redshirt freshman, and then had Charles out there. And then, so, we took our lumps, and Greg wasn't as aggressive as we probably could have been in those years. And we didn't protect our offense, and then they turned the ball over. You look at 96 between Purdue and Penn State, we turned it over 10 times and still had a chance to win both games. So we were knocking on the door, and we did have those guys. So the difference between us and this team is we did have those proven commodities. But when I watched this team, when they were unproven, they were becoming proven and grew up as the season went on, and they had 100% buy-in, and it looked like they didn't get too exotic. And, I was the one person that was extremely hard on Don Brown when he had success. I was saying that ain't going to work if y'all trying to go to that next level, and everybody thought I was mad and hating. I said, no, you can't. If Vance Bedford would have put me one-on-one with Napoleon Kaufman, then we would have lost too. You just can't do that to certain guys. Or put Sam Sword against Tavian Banks. Like, I would have, Vance gave me the liberty to check out of that. Check 3. I'm not about to do that, and we're going to lose. But I think what Mike has done is I think he listened to his staff, and that's what Jim Herman did too. Jim got a lot of credit, but when you talk about Brady Hoke, Vance Bedford, in your ear game planning and really doing it as a team effort, everybody wins. And Lloyd always said, when you win, there's enough for everybody. And I think that's what this team is experiencing.
Yeah, and certainly it helps, though. It helps when Vance can look out there and have an All-American Marcus, right? Hey, Marcus, handle that. Or Charles, handle all that, right? Well, Mike McDonald can look down to Aiden Hutchinson and say, hey, man, go handle that. And every single game, fellas, and this was one of the things that I thought was so special about that defensive year in 97. I mean, you had guys at every single game were big time. And you can say that about Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus. Every single game this year, he impacted the game. That to me, you got some guys that are great, a game here, a game there. He was great every game.
Well, and I think when you have a special defense, what happens is it starts with at least one guy, a superstar, and that's who Aiden was. I think, a lot of teams play collective defense and they play within the system, but what Aiden did is he took games over. He elevated his role, and that's what Charles did. Charles was, to me, the best player in college football that year. I think he's the best defensive college football player ever, with the exception of a couple arguments here or there, but Aiden Hutchinson, to me, was the best player in the country this year, and he put the team on his back. And what that does is when you're unselfish, and you make the guys around you better. Charles made me better. He made Andre better. We made Charles better. But when the coaching came in, Vance and those guys figured out who needed to be where. People don't understand. Charles played 50% of his snaps at nickelback almost that year. Vance was probably the first one to put that bigger guy at nickel, that hybrid Viper type guy 25 years ago. Like, so to understand how all the pieces work too, and how they complement your best player is part of coaching. But then when those guys play together, then you get the results. And that's what Aiden did. Like, not only did he create double and triple teams and beat one-on-one people, he made those linebackers elevate to his level. We didn't want to just see Charles Woodson get all the interceptions. I mean, at one point, 97, we were tied for first place, sitting in the same room. We had 5 apiece. And then Charles said, I'm not going to let you lead this team in interceptions. And I said, I never knew we was competing, you sucker. But with those great defenses, I think they have to have that one guy who's the best in the country or the best at what he does, and he'll elevate everybody else's game, and then it becomes contagious.
So, Vance, another thing that I thought was special about this defense this year, yeah, you had a great player. David Ajabo emerged on the other side. But this is another thing that was great. Because every week you would point out something. You say, Sam, they got to fix this. They got to fix that. This opponent is going to hit this, Sam, if they don't mess with it. And without fail, Vance, I mean, I hope you played some lottery this year, brother. I hope you did. Hey, Marcus, he said if Aiden gets 3 sacks against Ohio State, Michigan gonna win that game. He got 3 sacks against Ohio State. I mean, all year long you were doing that, man. So if you could take us back to the beginning, what were some of the holes that you saw, just to refresh the memory of the people, and then also bring up to speed the people who are just joining, and some of the holes that you saw and some of the holes that they started plugging as the season went on.
And the biggest concern in the first ball game, I think Marcus alluded to this, it was a young team with a new defense and a new defensive staff. So early in the year, I saw issues with formations, motions, bunches, trades, formations to the boundary. They didn't know how to adjust. They made a lot of mistakes. The run fits were off because anytime somebody traded the safety and the linebacker, they never communicated. So a couple of times we got hit with big plays. And we started fixing those things after the open data. Remember that open data said we need to work on unbalanced formations and formations to the boundary where they throwing the football. And you saw those things improve. You saw guys communicating better. The game that kind of got us was the Michigan State game. Our run fits were not very good. I said the linebacker didn't know where the safety was. And I said also we should do what? Twist the front. If you notice, the very next week, what did they start doing? Twisting the front to eliminate gaps because people started scheming us. And so each week I saw those improvements, things we talked about. I saw players communicating. Early in the year, I said, I don't know if we can rush the passer without blitzing. Aiden came along, Ajabo came along. I said, the next thing is, I don't know if we can cover. And as the season progressed, we go to a Ohio State game, we started playing press man, which I was really concerned about. And it made tough throws for the quarterback, which about time for Ajabo and Aiden to get to the quarterback. So each week I saw adjustments and I saw guys get better. I was concerned about Dax. People saying, watch Dax. So I kept watching Dax. I was concerned about who he was. And he got better and better, made guys around him better.